right, Ms. Asnawi Ali, ASNLF. Mr. Ali?
Yes, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Can. Yes, you can. Please go ahead.
Okay, 2 minutes only. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Asnawi Ali. I'm representing Aceh Sumatra National Liberation Front, ASNF. I would like to make some comment under session 1 concerning the situation minority in Indonesia, particularly in my homeland, Aceh. First of all, Indonesia does not recognize minorities. The term minority is ambiguous and not clearly defined in any legal conduct or regulations. Indonesia regards all ethnic groups in this country called Indonesians are minority. The Acehnese, for example, are minority group and constitute only 1.7% of 270 million of Indonesian population. The Acehnese have a different historical background and therefore should be respected.
whole host of issues relating to women within minorities. As you know, would someone like to speak on that? Emma, maybe would you like to say something?
Happy to jump in on that. Definitely, I think we've seen increasingly, even in the Indian context, definitely how the rights of women are often pitted against religious rights. And now, when we're looking at the larger narrative that is ongoing, it becomes even more difficult to articulate the rights of women because it is seen as somehow then delegitimizing.
Every region has its own history and distribution of ethnic minorities, which should be based on those factors to formulate protection policies for ethnic minorities. And secondly, taking common development and common prosperity as a path of ethnic governance may provide a new reference to all countries and regions in the world to deal with ethnic issues. And this is my recommendation and statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gerald Joseph, is it? Yes, Mr. Gerald Joseph.
Good evening from Malaysia, Ms. Radhika and colleagues. Thank you for your presentation. Some thoughts on the normative framework for consideration is that I think the notion of finding out, despite constitutional guarantees of equality, is the concept of equal citizenship really being practiced in action. So I think countries like Malaysia and many countries, there is an unspoken dualistic system that works, and I think that needs to be one studied and also exposed, that the effect of a good constitution is an equality framework for all across the board. If not, it's meaningless and it's just nice on paper. And then that brings me to countries like Malaysia, and I'm not sure, perhaps also Sri Lanka and other countries. This notion of affirmative action that is embedded into law, while it had significance in history, any affirmative action that has a permanent nature in itself will constitute institutional discrimination, and it impacts the minority. In Malaysia, it's the majority that gets the affirmative action provision, and I think that is dangerous, and that if it's not challenged, and the utilization of the human rights framework is always countered by political powers who says that that is not how history of the country should be. If the history is more one ethnic group in its history, so that's how it is, and so that for me is almost like an apartheid system that should never be allowed. But I'm actually proposing maybe a bit more framing of how affirmative action, while needed in a certain space, can be transformed into a needs-based or a merit-based framework that actually will ensure no one is left behind. So it's not the minority majority, but people who actually need the support, both economic and other rights. Because I think Malaysia, our development in the last 50 years has taken us far ahead. So I think now that part is done. It's more the intrinsic value of equality and dignity. And I think also my other recommendation is the framework of the social spaces where majority and minority always seems to be outplayed through social messaging, and because the notion that one is better than the other, and politicians silence. And I think the need for political leadership, anyone in power cannot be silent when this is growing, because hate can easily grow and one can outdo the other because of sheer numbers. And I think that's something that we could recommend. And also, I think one way to ensure that check and balances exist is the professionalizing of enforcement agencies like the police or other enforcement agencies. It may be a majority ethnic group, but it is designed as a professional force. And how do we transform people coming from different identities to actually uphold the values or the trainings they had. And I think my final point is many of us here, including Mona Ansari, was a former commissioner and commissioner now, groups, and of course also groups like the National Human Rights Institution need to be independent as a voice to check if such oversights or push is happening by the majority, and independent judiciary is crucially important if everything else fails. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Naseem Malik.
Thank you very much to all the panelists, and especially to Fernand de Venice. Thank you very much for the 13th of July, 13th of July, that you took up the matter for the Ahmadiyya community, special side events. And here I want to thank Mr. Shahabuddin. So you quickly took up the matter. Actually, the thing is this, that for all the minorities, in most of these countries, their citizenship rights are violated. That's the basic international law. They're all violated. For the Ahmadis, I'm talking because they don't have even the right to vote since 1974. So this is one thing I want to say. The other thing is very important is at the moment, as Amina has mentioned about the Christian cases, they are how they are happening in the Pakistani courts. My recommendation to this forum is that kindly take the matter with your ambassadors in Pakistan to monitor the cases in the courts. There you can see how these mullahs, these judges, they are violating the international laws, when they have these blasphemy cases in front of them. So my recommendation again to monitor these blasphemy cases only, and then international community can see what is happening to these communities. And the third thing I want to recommend, that in these countries, if you see their religion is mentioned in the ID cards, and when it's mentioned in the ID card, their persecution starts from the very start, from the schools, from the kindergarten. These they are Christians, they are Hindus, they are Ahmadis, they are Shias. So this should be stopped also. Recommendation should be Fernandez, as we discussed last time also, the ID cards, this thing should be excluded because it's a basic right, international right. Radia, you have mentioned, that you have mentioned this is against the international law. All the Article 25 and 26, 18 and 19 and 2 also. So thank you very much once again, and good luck to all.
Thank you. Any more questions? Let me just, for those of you who don't want to speak, Marcus Oda has just put something in the chat. He says, please submit your recommendations in writing via the chat function or email to Marcus Oda. So just look up the chat function if you have any recommendations, and that relieves me. I don't have to take these recommendations down, which I've been trying to do. That's good. Now, Mr. Ling Kian. You have the floor, Mr. Ling Kian. Madam, I'm sorry. I'm having this male bias. It's very bad. I apologize.
I'm Yvette Tian from National Ethnic Affairs Commission of the PRC, and it's really a great pleasure to join this discussion. Aiming at the human rights protection and the conflict prevention of the minorities, different countries and regions in the world have taken corresponding measures. Based on China's working practice and experience on ethnic affairs, I would like to add more 2 points. Firstly, what we're trying to do is to promote the exchanges and interactions among the ethnic groups. In the trend of urbanization, the movement of population as well as the mixed habitations are very inevitable. And more people are moving to the cities with more and more places urbanized. In China, there are at least 2 ethnic groups in all the county level cities, and more than 10 provinces and 20 cities have all the 56 ethnic groups. What we're trying to do is to create